Hi all, this is Allmighty and welcome to this video. So in this video, again we are back with the Fischer series and I'm going to do a video about him playing against Arthur Bisguier. But before we go into all of that, I would like to first mention a couple of things. The things I failed to mention in the videos before when I started with the series. So Fischer, we all know that he instantly fell in love with chess. So when he was younger, his sister brought a chess set, challenged him for a game, beat him, and then he started to train in order to beat her. He eventually did, and then there you go with the story. He went to the Brooklyn Chess Club, played a lot of tournaments, blah blah blah, world champion, famous superstar. But actually one other event took place when he was younger. So when he was 11 years old, and there was a match between the USSR and the US. It was played in New York in USA, and Fischer actually was there. He saw for the first time players like Smyslov, Bronstein, Keres, also Reshevsky play against each other, and yeah, he saw some amazing games and also the atmosphere. So there were a lot of people really interested about how will the USA fare against the USSR, since of course you know the times and the history. So yeah, the Americans were really pumped about it. Fischer was one of the spectators, and in the end the USSR won 20-12, but Fischer was yeah, I guess there was also a factor of national pride involved. I mean, when you see your country beaten, maybe it encourages you even more to help it in the future, and maybe to go just single-handedly beat the whole Soviet Union. You never know. So yeah, that was one part of the story, and also the other part of the story also relates to the chess in general. Like throughout history, chess players up until that point weren't like paid on a regular basis. More of, if you want to participate in some serious tournament and you are on the top level, you can get some money. But Fischer was actually the first guy who got serious money when he was playing chess. Not only did he paid for playing tournaments, so he did get paid, and also he wanted a lot of money to actually play, which for the standards for chess at that time was really big money. And also he got paid to actually participate in interviews, in photo shoots, and stuff like that in general. Like you can see a regular famous person do today. So Fischer started it for chess and kind of popularized it all over the globe, especially with his match with Spassky in 1972. But yeah, that is pretty much it for that things. I just wanted to get that out of the way, and let's get back to the game. So previously I covered two games from Fischer, so now this is a game from 1957. He is 14 years old, and he is on the path to become one of the greatest chess players in the history, and we have him participating in the US Championship. So the thing is, he participated in that Third Rosenwald Cup, and now it is called a year after in the US Championship. So in between, he also played in the Junior Championship where he won, and now he is playing here. In this championship, you actually have players like you have Bisguier, who was also a former US championship. You have Reshevsky, he was 7 times US chess champion, and also many others that were considered to be the strongest chess players in the US at that time. And here we have a game Fischer-Bisguier. Fischer is white and Bisguier is black. So let's see it. E4, E6, so Fischer is white, and of course he plays E4 as always, and Bisguier decided for the French defense, so D4, D5. So I already covered what you have, moves like E5, knight C3, knight D2, and capture on D5, and here Fischer plays the knight C3, and we have bishop B4, so-called Winawer variation. E5, a totally normal move, the knight is pinned, you don't want to get, you don't want a black to capture your pawn. Also knight to f6 was a possible move, but the e5 is like the main line. And now here in my chess career, I mostly saw c5 played and knight to e7. So those two moves could be like the most played lines today. But here Bisguier played b6, which is also an okay move. The idea behind it is not to put the knight on bishop to b7 because the center is pretty much locked in, rather put it on a6 in order to exchange the light square bishop. And black is pretty much really good here, so he will probably plan to go queenside castle. Here we have a3, also a common move in this variation of the French. You want to make this bishop decide, will he go to e7 back or f8, or will he capture onto c3. Bisguier captures and bc3. So what did you do? You gave up the bishop pair for the knight, but in the end you messed up the whole queen side of white. This looks really clumsy for white, and me personally, I really don't like playing with this, especially in the main variations where you have c5 and possibilities of pushing c4, then you get real problems. We have queen to d7. It isn't a problem putting the queen in front of this bishop because the bishop will eventually go to a6. Queen to g4, a really common move in these variations of the French. You always see this queen coming to g4 because there is no dark square bishop, especially on f8, and you can easily attack the g7 pawn. We have f5, so defending with the tempo and also pushing. You don't want to capture because then knight to f6 is with tempo, so queen to g3, and Fischer decided to keep the tension in the center. So finally we have bishop to a6, and Fischer exchanges the bishops. Knight to a6, and now we have knight to e2, continuing with the development. Queenside castle, so black really doesn't matter that the b file is half open, because he thinks that his stronghold is good enough at the moment. But Fischer will prove throughout the game that maybe he overcalculated himself, at least in this terms, because now on black side speed is the main important thing, because you want to attack on the king side. White definitely doesn't want to go queenside castle because, as I said, queen side is busted open. You would want to push the g pawn and the h pawn and try to open up and attack on the king side. So you have to play really precisely. So we have a4 immediately by Fischer. He will push a5 in order to open up the a file along with the b file. So we have king to b7 defending the knight because a5 comes, and then after you take this, knight is undefended. We have castle by Fischer, so want to put the king to safety, and now queen to f7. So maybe, yeah, don't waste your time playing a lot with the queen. Maybe knight to e7 was better here. You don't have to be that afraid of losing the g7 pawn. I mean, also, yeah, knight to e7, and after capturing on g7, you would want to have like this position a bit open up, because then the g file and the g pawn of white can be attacked. But yeah, also h6 is a move, preparing g5. So there are a couple of ideas you want to play here, but queen to f7 maybe a bit slower. So Fischer decided to play c4 in this variation, in this situation, in order to open up the center and also enable queen to come on the queen side easily. We have knight to e7, and in this situation queen to b3 was really a great move. So you move your queen, black was too slow on the king side, and all of your pieces are starting to get on the queen side and attack the black king side. Then you have something like d takes on c4, queen takes c4, and after knight to d5 even a5 could be played, and pretty much black is getting attacked and he has to defend the whole game. But Fischer decided to play something else. He played bishop to g5. So, I mean, the idea is to pin this knight, but in the end, this bishop won't do anything on this side. He will probably have to go back on this side in order to attack. It doesn't really make sense to have it here as a defending piece, because all the pawns will attack it. h6, g5, and if the bishop comes on g3, you even have f4. So Bisguier played d takes c4. We have queen c3 attacking the pawn, and now knight to d5 with tempo. So you cannot take the rook because the queen was attacked. Queen c4, and now rook to a8. So the rook was played here in order to, yeah, once more defend this knight, because after a5 and exchanges, black will open the a file and try to exchange on the a file a little bit. We have bishop to d2, so Fischer admits the mistake of putting the bishop on g5 and transfers it to attack on the queen side. We have f4, and now a really good move by Fischer, rook to a3. So the rook stays on the queen side in the attack, and also he is guarding the third rank. There is no immediate push of the pawn, and kind of limits the black pushing on the pawn on the queen side, king side even more. Now we have g5 continuing with the attack, and on the other hand also Fischer continues with his attack, so playing a5 in order to open up the queen side. So Bisguier really needs to figure out how will he defend, because as you can see, Fischer is much faster on the queen side than Bisguier is on the king side. He decided to play c6 and maybe to put one of the knights on c7, and yeah, also open up so that the queen can come closer to the queen side to defend the king. But as you can see, by pushing the pawns forward, you are kind of putting your king into a worse position. In this situation, actually rook to b1 could have been the move, still pressuring on the b pawn. You don't have to be afraid of the b5 pushing, because after rook takes b5, c b5, queen b5, king c7, you capture on a6, and now the threat is to push the c4 pawn and also push the d5 pawn. If you play something like queen to d7, c4, knight d7 and d5, you open up the whole position, so d6 is a threat after taking also rook to c3. Yeah, black is in a really hard position here. I mean, you have to play precise, and it's really hard to calculate all the moves here. So Fischer didn't decide to go for that. So he was maybe afraid of pushing the b5 pawn after c6, so he immediately took on b6, ab6, and now queen to b3. So putting the queen on the b file. Now he wants to push c4 and also include the knight into the attack. So we have knight from a to c7, so that there could be exchanges on the a file. c4 attacking, and now first taking of the rook, queen takes and rook to a8. Now queen moves back to b3, so nothing changed, only the rooks will exchange, and now this knight has to move. Of course, the only reasonable move is the e7 square, and now we have a knight to c3. So either from e4 or a4, this knight wants to come to the attack, so on a4 he is attacking b6 and also threatens to jump on c5, and on e4 he has threatened c5 as well, and also jump to d6, a really strong square for the knight. So queen to f5 was played in order to prevent that, and we have queen to b4. So here, once again, maybe knight to a4 was much faster. You would have to play something like knight to c8, but then knight to c5 comes right away, and then knight to d7 even is an option. Rook to b1, there are a lot of options here, and it seems much faster than playing a queen to b4, which Fischer played. Now in this situation we have knight to c8 right away, so defending the b6 pawn, and now only knight to a4. But now Bisguier has f3, and he is also making threats on the king side, because the queen moved from b3 and isn't guarding the third rank. So knight to c5 is played, check, king b8, and knight to d7 check. King to b7, so this knight is looking good here, he is not attacked, and also he is guarding, limiting the king here, and also attacking the b6 square. Next move is queen to b3 first. So you want to put the queen here in order to bring her closer to the defense. And now we have queen to g4. So the problem is, after all of this, because Fischer was a bit too slow, also black is creating some threats. You have to take care of that, so you don't want to play g3 right away, because after that you have queen to d4, and the knight is attacked and he cannot come to c5 back. So Fischer, instead of that, first played knight to c5, and now king to b8, and now only now g3, because now after queen to d4, which Bisguier played, now you're able to play bishop to e3. You're guarding the knight and the queen cannot capture it, so she has to move. Queen to a1 was played, so this is not a real sacrifice of the queen, because after rook takes, checkmate will follow because of this pawn on f3. So as you can see, Fischer gave some counterplay for Bisguier. But of course, Fischer doesn't want to do that. He plays rook to b1, so he will pressure even more on the b6 square and will not give up any chances for for black. And now Bisguier actually played rook to a3 and kind of messed up the whole situation, because now you have knight to d7 check, king to b7, and queen to d1. So in this situation, so queen has moved out of the attack of the rook. Now the black queen is attacked with tempo. She has to move, and after that, yeah, you cannot really stop the taking on the b6. So with rook to a3, yeah, Bisguier messed up his position and he can clearly resign, but the play went on. So we have queen to a2, and now knight takes on b6. Knight takes on b6, and a rook takes on b6 for check. King goes to c8, and after that we have queen takes on f3. So white took even this f3 pawn. This red is to capture on c6, and yeah, then you have also, for example, you take with the rook. Bishop comes to b6, this knight cannot go anywhere, the rook is defended, black is falling apart in this position. Okay, not rook, knight, bishop b6 right away because it is pinned, but you get the idea. Also queen to f8 is an idea, a lot of things. Bisguier decided to play queen to c4, he missed this queen to f8 check with Fischer played, which Fischer played. We have king to d7, and after queen took on a3, Arthur Bisguier actually resigned the game. So yeah, this is a beautiful display of Fischer's, how you can actually play against this variation of the French defense. So it was a really good game for me, because I usually play with white in this kind of a setup. People don't play b6 that much these days, or at least not against me. They play a c5 right away, but you can see some ideas and some motives that Fischer really took advantage of and had a really swift attack on the queen side. But yeah, okay, so this is like the only game that I wanted to show you from this championship, so I'm going to show you the standings quickly. So as you can see, Fischer was first. He won the US chess championship with only 14 when he was only 14 years old, so quite an achievement. Not many can actually say that they did such a thing. And also he was 1 point ahead in front of Reshevsky. So as I've said, 7 times US chess champion. And as you can see, okay, Arthur Bisguier, even though a former US chess champion, ended up sharing the 10th place. Not the best tournament for him, but still a strong player nevertheless. Yeah, we have some notable players here as well. As you can see, Fischer won a lot of games and clearly proved why they consider him such a talent and such a chess genius. So yeah, this is pretty much it for this video. I'm going to be continuing with the story, sharing some exhibition matches, also some tournaments, before we go into that clash with the Soviets. So yeah, this is pretty much it. I would like to thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time.